And we are live for our live masterclass series for people who lead people in teams. So, welcome back to the masterclass. And for those of you who have missed some of these sessions, you can definitely sign up on the link in the description, and you'll be catching all of the replays and handouts and resources. So, just go check the description and get everything that we talked about in that link. All right, so let's see, talking about what we talked about. We started with preparation in the high performance cycle. So we discussed about emotional intelligence and mindsetting, power poses, body language and how they influence mindset. And we even did some breathing and diction exercises. So check what we did on those sessions so you can understand how you can prepare yourself better and also how you can help your team prepare themselves better for high performance. And then we started to discuss high performance and we talked about how we can manage our time better so that it doesn't manage us. And today we are talking about how we can manage our team from hiring all the way to developing and retaining, because we talk so much about motivation and engagement, diversity and inclusion. So we're going to cover a bunch of stuff today. And obviously, I will recommend some resources at the end of the session, which you can definitely get if you click on the link below and register for the masterclass. Okay, so are you ready to start our session today? By the way, anytime that you have any question or want to make any comment, please feel free to put it in the comment section. And I'm here. I will see it. I will answer it. Okay, so I wanted to start with some stats because we talk about the future of work a lot. And actually, the future of work is now. We're creating the future of work as we speak. So let's look at what are some stats out there when it comes to what people expect, what people want to see happening. And we have the WeWork study that tells us that 90% of people who they interviewed want to return to the office at least 1 day per week. And out of that group, 20% want to return 5 days a week. So that already tells you that people are very diverse and have very different needs when it comes to physical workspace, work environment. What do they want? How can we help them, right? When we have people who have this desire to, okay, I want to go to the office 5 days a week, as opposed to people who want to get into the office at least 1 day a week. What do we do to ensure that we're as flexible as possible and then we can cater to these very different needs? We also have this Google study that tells us that 65% of startups that fail don't fail because of technology and system problems. They fail because of people problems. So that's an interesting number to look at because 65%, that's quite a lot. And again, it's not surprising. And if you're here, probably this doesn't surprise you either, that the main cause of failure is people problems. And here is the thing. When we look at these stats, what becomes very clear is that if we want to see some change in that new future of work that we're creating, we have to start to do things differently than we've always done before. Because we cannot do things as we've always done them and expect to get different results, right? I've said that before. That's the definition of insanity. So let's just see how we can do things differently so that we become that change and we create a different future of work. Because after all, what all of these numbers that we discussed tell us is that people decisions are business decisions. They're important business decisions. If people problems are business problems, then people's success will also be business success. So any kind of decision that you're taking when it comes to people, that's going to be an important business decision. As long as all of the people decisions that we're making are aligned with our vision, our values, our culture, the business goals, and the other team members. When you look at all of these and the stages of making people decisions in a business, that starts to make sense, because we talk about making people decisions from the pre-hiring stage, when we're thinking, hey, we might need some more people because clearly we don't have enough resources right now and we need more help. So when we're in that pre-hiring phase, we look at what we want those people to bring in the organization, in the team, in the business. It really doesn't matter how large or small your team or your organization is. When we look at all of these steps, we look at the same thing. And the way that we're making people decision is going to have a very clear impact on how the business goes once we bring those people in and as they develop further in our organization. So first of all, we need to know, what would they be doing? What would they be bringing? What do we need them for? And then when we hire, we look at what we want them to do and always align that with what we want them to do in terms of where the business needs to go and where our other people in our team need that complementary help. And then when we look at developing these people that we brought into the organization, is how do we help them and the business grow? Because again, everything needs to be linked. We want them to grow. Why? Because that particular individual growth is going to contribute to the organization growth. And then obviously, as they grow in their role and in the organization, we need to look at what they can do next. So it's all about spotting talent and potential, but not just when we hire people, because that's where we get all of these super talented people that we bring in our organization, and then they leave because they develop even further. And if you as an organization, as a leader of that team, don't spot the upcoming talent, the next talent that they have, the next potential that they can develop, then at some point they will just move away from the organization because they don't find themselves aligned with that vision and value and culture. So the development stage is going to be crucial, as in, do they stay and do they grow even further with the organization and contribute even more, or they choose to move on. That doesn't mean that in a promotion phase this cannot happen. It just means that as a leader, you constantly have to know what you want your people to bring and what they feel that they can bring in the organization. So looking at what can you do next? What do you want to do next? What are you looking for next? And then, yes, we might be parting ways because we don't align anymore, or because you found something that you feel more fulfilled by. And that is not that, I see that as a very often as a fear of leaders and managers. And I just feel that this is not the place to be afraid, because everybody grows in their career journey, in their business professional journey, right? So it's not fear. It shouldn't be fear driven, but rather let's see how we can build this relationship outside of the current organization. Because the way that your people and in your team grow and how they grow, that is going to have a crucial impact on your reputation, on your brand, on even on your business goals at some point. And the way that you can work with them after they've left the organization is going to say a lot about you as an organization and about you as a leader who's able to really expand those relationships outside the borders of one organization. And it can be that you choose to work together and collaborate on different levels after they've left your particular team, and they can still be valuable. And you can still be valuable to them. All right, so these are the 5 steps where we would be looking at making people decisions. So how do we make sure that we make the right decisions, right? How do we make sure that we really build, engage, and motivate a dream team here? So let's look at team resourcing, motivation, and communication. These are the 3 main elements that we're going to have a look at. And we start with team resourcing because really we want to cover the pre-hiring and hiring stage, right? And even a little bit of the development stage in a team. So when we look at a team and people that form that team, I have this quote that I wanted to share with you. The simple act of paying positive attention to people has a great deal to do with productivity. Because at the end of the day, why do we care so much about resourcing, motivation, engagement, inclusion, all of these beautiful things that we want to bring on a team? Because we want results. That's the best way, right? We align the activities and the requirements and everything that the team needs to do to business goals and results. So it has a lot to do with productivity. As we saw, 65% of startups don't fail because of systems, they fail because of people. So what do we want to measure? And we have, when we're making people decisions, we have different areas that we can look at when we want to bring people on the team, or when we're looking at forming a team for a particular project. And we can measure personality. We have a lot of tools and assessments out there that you're probably already using some of them to measure personality. We can measure experience. We can also measure expertise, right? We look at we need referrals, we look at resumes, we have interviews, we look at what they contribute maybe on LinkedIn and so on. But what about impact? How do you measure your impact and your team's impact in your organization, in how they work? How do you measure whether somebody can drive change or can deliver outcomes or bring the team together? How do you measure if somebody can plan or strategize, or whether or not they're innovative or creative, or somebody's able to drive improvement? How can we measure that? Because if we look at all of these questions, depending on the needs that we have on the team, depending on the needs that we have in the organization, we would like to have these questions answered. And we need some data to provide the answers to these questions. And I've put these questions over here for you to have a better look at the kind of questions that you want to have answered whenever you're talking about bringing the team together. And it all starts all the way from hiring to developing them and taking them a step further. So understanding how they work, what the different working styles are, and how that's great for you as a team and as an organization and as a leader and as a business. So we have Some of the assessments that I've worked with some of the clients that I've worked with are the motivation finder. That's a pretty good one, especially for individuals. The Belbin team roles, that's a good one for the team together and seeing what roles they naturally take on a team. And the Myers-Briggs questionnaire that measures the kind of personality styles, and that's a good one for assessing individually. So you have two individuals, the Belbin, who is measuring team roles, and then the GC index, which stands for the game changing index, which measures impact. And this helps you make business decisions that are based on reliable data that we didn't have before. So obviously all of these are tools that you can use. It really depends in which stage of what do you want your team to do? What do you need from your team? Where do you want them to move on to? What is the next goal, the next outcome? So depending on where you are with your team and with your business goals, you're going to decide to use one assessment or another. What the game changing index assessment does is it helps you measure the impact that you as the team leader and also your team members have when they work together, and also what your team's impact is in the organization. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. But before that, just think about completing this sentence. I feel I'm making the best impact on the team when you think about it. I will just, and if you already have an answer, just put it in the comments here because I'm really curious to know what your answer is and when you feel that you're making the best impact. When you what? When you contribute ideas, when you manage conflict, or when you strategize or plan, or when you implement projects, or when you develop products or services in your organization or in your business further. What makes you feel that you're making your best impact? And that's such an important question to look at, because really this is what gives us the measure of how do we contribute, and how do we contribute best, and what are we valued for over and over again. What am I valued for in my team? What are you valued for in your team? And as I said, it can be, if you look at this chart right here, it shows you that you might be having different combinations of what your impact is. And when we talk about impact, we talk about proclivities, which is your natural inclination to do something, plus your skill set. That's how you make your best impact. So what is it for you? Just thinking about, obviously this is a full assessment that you can take, but just thinking about it now, what might be the impact that you're having in your team, in your organization? And even if you are, I know you might be a team manager, a team leader, that's great. You're still part of a team. So think about yourself. Yes, you are the leader, but you're also part of that team. So what's your best impact? How do you contribute best? With ideas, with strategies, with implementation, with polishing, with developing great products almost to perfection? Are you very keen to have high quality, or do you like orchestrating the future? Do you spot talent? Do you see what your people should be working on? Do you like to manage even issues before they start becoming conflicts on a team? What might be your best impact and your best contribution? And the reason I'm mentioning it and I'm asking this question is because this is absolutely crucial data to know when we're bringing people in the organization or on the team to make sure that they're going to have the impact that we want them to have depending on the business goal that we have. Because, and obviously you can take it individually, but the power of taking this individually is that it also gives you a team view, what we would call a team aggregate. So if you have a team of, 12 people, you actually see the impact that this team has on your organization or on your business. So what we're looking at here is you see all of the individual members' impact and the team impact all together. And what this helps with is, well, if I know that, for instance, in this case, my team is very high on game changing and implementation. So in other words, in coming up with completely great ideas and out of the box, new, something that nobody else has done before, and implementing them, right? They're very good with that. If I look at the data that this chart provides. But what I also know is my blind spots. So I know the strengths that the team has and what they do best, what they contribute best. But I also know that I don't have enough strategists on the team, the blue dot, which is just 7%, and I don't have enough polishers, the orange dot, which is also a 7%. And that tells me that they might not be planning properly. They might disregard whether or not we have the right resources or it is the right time for this idea. Because if I keep coming up with new ideas of how to do things completely differently and implementing them, that might not bring me business results, great business results, the business results that I'm after, because maybe the market isn't ready for that. Maybe there's not a high demand for that completely revolutionary product that I've just created, 100,000 items of. And then I don't have where to sell that. Maybe the market wasn't ready. Maybe it wasn't the right time, all because I didn't have a strategist to help with proper planning and prioritizing and looking at the market trends and everything else. Or maybe I'm just creating products or services, but I might be missing out on not being able to develop them even further or check how much they stand in value, how much value they have. What's the quality of that service or of that product? That is something that a polisher, the orange dot, would be able to do. So let me give you an example, a case study of impact, how measuring impact helped in motivating a team at Nike. So for Nike, when they used the GC index, it was because obviously the company is high on innovation and creativity, and they're very they have teams of people who are game changers and strategists, and so they are very innovative and also business oriented. So they come up with ideas of how they can do things differently and also strategize and plan and prioritize, right? So what do you do when you as an organization have these values of creativity and innovation? How do you make sure that you motivate everybody on the team? How do you motivate the people who are not very high on coming up with new ideas or envisioning possibilities, but the people who want to implement, whose natural impact as they work is to implement? Or how do you motivate those people who are very keen to have very high quality and have a great attention to detail and want to develop your services even further, almost to perfection? What do you do with those playmakers on your team that care about making sure that teams work well together, that everybody is in the roles that they should be in, and so on? What do you do with them? How do you motivate them? So they use the GC index to do that, to help everybody on the team understand what they were contributing with and how to the success of the organization, to the success of Nike. And here's what they came up with at the end of the team workshop and discussions. And obviously, everybody went and did their individual assessment report and then the team assessment report. And there were a lot of discussions and aha moments. And then it was very clear for all of these people what their contribution to innovation, which is a very high value in the organization, was. So game changers think something that nobody else thinks. Strategists envision possibilities. Implementers build something that nobody else builds. Polishers improve something that already exists. And playmakers accelerate ideas and possibilities through relationships. So by using the GC index, all of these teams understood, and all of these individuals that formed the Nike teams understood how they were contributing to the greater good, to the outcomes, to the values and the culture of the organization that they were part of. How about that for motivation and engagement? Obviously, they went high. So that's why when it comes to resourcing, the GC index might be something that you want to look at and use as you're also using the MBTI or the Motivation Finder, Skills Finder, and so on. Because this gives you an idea of what your teams contribute with in the larger organization scheme. And now, starting from there and building on that, let's talk more about team motivation. And let me ask you this: how well do you know your team? Well, actually, how well do you know yourself first? And then how well do you know your team? Because again, as a leader, you're also a part of your team first, right? And you have to look at what motivates generations in learning and working, because they're very much related. And when you look at this table, I'm not going to dwell on it, but I wanted to show you the different kinds of learning experiences and perceptions that each generation has had, and how it impacts the way in which they work, and in their needs, how it impacts their needs at work, the need for feedback, and their needs from the leader. That's what I wanted to show you, because they grew up in different environments, and the environment in which we grow up has tremendous impact on how we learn to work, basically. And if you look at how generations perceive feedback, for example, you will see that starting from baby boomers, for whom feedback was just a form of an exam, right? And then the teacher was all powerful and all knowledgeable. And we moved through to Generation X, who took feedback only as criticism. Feedback was necessarily something that we needed to improve, that, in other words, that we did wrong. That's how, and that is why we also see a lot of that in the organizations today. A lot of feedback is perceived just as criticism. because we don't yet have enough millennials in the workplace that are managers or leaders right now that can change that perception of feedback from criticism to also positive reinforcement. In other words, this is what I like about the way that you work. This is what works. This is what I appreciate. And when we move slowly, we're going to see what Generation Z brings in the workplace is a dialogue when it comes to feedback. It can be criticism. What do we need to improve? What doesn't work? And also positive reinforcement. What works and what I like about working with you. But when you look at the leader needs, they also changed. So thinking about your team, what are the generations in your team? You have to know that. And depending on each generation, look at who you need to be as a leader so that you find that common language and so that they feel they have a strong leader. Because their definition and their perception of a leader is also different depending on which generation they belong to. What you also need to look at is what is the stage of your team? Where is your team now? Is it just forming? Or have you been working together for a while? Are you storming right now? And that's the phase where the team's effectiveness, when we talk about high performance, then in the storming phase, you need to know that you're not going to expect performance, because that is when the storm happens. That's when everybody talks about they start having disagreements. There will be a lot of conflict on your team. And as a leader, you need to be a coach. You need to be able to manage conflict. You need to be able to listen to what all of your team members have to say and facilitate those discussions. So in other words, not fearing disagreement, but encouraging it, because otherwise it turns into explosive conflict a little bit later. Or if you're in the norming phase where you've started to agree on how you are doing things, how you are going to work together, and what are some of the policies and procedures that help you to do that. And then you are aiming towards performing. So again, where is your team right now? That's another thing that you need to be looking at. And by the way, what has also happened as teams started to become virtual overnight, what happened is even for teams who, let's say, were norming or performing, they got back into the storming stage because with the change of the environment, a lot of the rules and the procedures weren't there anymore. Everything changed and everybody was working differently and everybody had different needs. And again, everybody had their own different kind of environment as they were working at home. So they suddenly found themselves in the storming stage where they started to, again, have a lot of disagreement about how do we work well now? Where are we going as a team? What are we going to do and how are we going to do it? Because the environment has changed. So think about where is your team right now in the team, the team stages. And when we talk about teams, really, all of that is going to come down to communication, because in teamwork, silence isn't golden, it's deadly. When you have your team not talking to you, that's when you know they're not engaged, they're not motivating, they're not contributing, they don't believe in their own contribution, they don't believe in the value of contributing. They probably think, what's the point of me saying anything, because nothing's going to really change. So that's when you know that you have a problem. So when we talk about communication, I'm going to give you two ideas to build from. So first of all, we talk about formal communication and also informal communication. Now, with formal communication, a lot of these we already know. Virtual meetings and emails, we've done them a lot. What I've also seen is companies tweaking some of the benefits. And you can look at what benefits you were offering, and you can talk to your compensation and benefits people, to your HR people about that. What are some of the benefits that we were offering before in the physical environment, and which we can now take and offer as virtual benefits, like meditation or fitness app subscriptions? Because a lot of people have high levels of stress and anxiety, even depression. Not to mention, again, you need to think of yourself as a team leader. You are also part of the team. Who takes care of you? What can you do to take care of yourself and of your team? Or paid lunch once a month. Instead of those lunches that we were paying for in the office meetings, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can invite people to order, or maybe we can order for them once a month for a team meeting. Or have development programs, team or individual coaching programs, team development programs. These are, again, people need to know that they're not just in the surviving stage, that they can also grow from there to thrive again. So the need for growth, that hasn't stopped. The dream big concept doesn't stop with a crisis. It's, if anything, it's enhanced by a crisis. And please think about reviving phone calls. Now, these are essential, especially for people to be able to move, because basically we're having this kind of virtual meetings, which are great because we can see each other, but we kind of forgot about phone calls and the power of having a conversation as I'm having maybe my morning or lunch walk outside and we're discussing creative ideas. It's so powerful to be discussing creative ideas as we're all on the move like that, because that's when we're even more relaxed, and when we're more relaxed, we're also more creative. So try to have a balance between virtual meetings on camera and off camera with phone calls that are easy to do, as people need to also move. And we can share the workspace, but virtually, right? So as you used to work together in an office and sharing an office together, now you can share the virtual space together. And that means that you just join on a Zoom meeting together, for instance, or I don't know, Teams or whatever platform you're using. And then each of you works on their project or on a project together, but on their specific part of that project. And you can ask questions. That's the beauty of it. If I don't know where one document was saved, I can ask you, and you will be immediately answering me. I don't email you, I don't text you. We can communicate effectively and fast. Or we can say something like, hey, I'm gonna pour myself some coffee. Who wants one? And you get that it's not the same thing as working together in the office, but it's close to that. And it minimizes the perceived distance that we have as we're all working virtually from different parts of the city or of the world even. It helps us feel like we're together. And that replaces that maybe water cooler conversation that we used to have. Now, for informal communication, that definitely helps you decrease the physical distance and bring some fun into the job that must be done, right? In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. Because why? Teams who can have fun together and who can also cry together, that is a powerful team. Because they can be vulnerable with each other, and they're comfortable with that. They're okay with that. And they know that this happens. I can laugh with you, and that's when I'm vulnerable, because you will know what I find funny or amusing. I can cry with you, because and then I'm vulnerable, because that's when you also know that, hey, this is what you find frustrating and upsetting and sad, maybe, or I don't know, whatever it is, right? So you want some informal communication. So really, the world is your oyster. You can organize a virtual breakfast or lunch, coffees, parties, really anything. But you can also organize groups or chats by topic. For instance, you have people who are passionate about story reading, or about music, or cooking, or photography, or painting, or tech, anything. You can create groups, or just ask them, do you need a group? Do you want to create a group? And let them create their own groups of discussion. That comes on top of whatever projects and teams that they are part of. But that's different, because that's informal. That stands for, if we met on the hallway and we were both watching the same series or movie, which can be another group that you can create, what would it be? What would we talk about? And people need to discuss all of these ideas so that they feel that they're still part of a team, not just a group of people who are working together, but a real team where they can also share some of the stuff that they're passionate about. Some of the greatest ideas that sometimes come is after a discussion that maybe has nothing to do with what we're working on. But because we were talking about something that we're passionate about, and we got engaged into that conversation, we activated the creativity mode. And then we started to see possibilities that just weren't there before, because we were stuck in work mode. Again, virtual working sessions, super powerful. You can also share photos or recipes or solutions. What works for you in working from home? How do you work from home? How do you make working from home work for you? And that can be just sharing and learning from each other. Okay, so what we did is we looked at resourcing, motivation, engagement, communication, some things that you as a team leader can look at when it comes to motivating and engaging your team. So make sure that you click the link in the description and get the session handout. You can also book a meeting and we can discuss more about the GC index, how you can use it, if this is good for you, and what does it help with, or even strategies or challenges that you're going through. Let me know and book a meeting and we can talk about it. And you're also getting some useful links that you can then check in more depth. Now, because we were talking about more resources for you, I have another question. Who's taking care of you? The team leader or the team manager? And I have a few ideas for you. You can join the Lead for Legacy League. So again, you can book a meeting and you can also DM me. I'm happy to talk to you more about it. But basically, this is a global online management and leadership transformation program specifically aimed at mid to senior managers and small business CEOs. Really, the people who are hands-on in managing and leading their teams through the trenches right now. And if you want to build different kind of future of work, you have a pretty good idea where to start with. After the session today, some tools that you can look at. If you want to discuss more, come and join us or DM me and I'm happy to talk to you about it. What the Lead for Legacy League offers to its members is weekly group coaching and Q&A and discussions. We also have brainstorming, business development, and networking with peers in different countries from different industries. And that is crucial in your development as a leader. And you also have guest speakers that we invite from various industries and with different points of view. So again, if you think this might be for you, you're not sure, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you about it. If you are sure, come join us. This goes on month by month, so you can join us anytime. See how it works for you, and if you like it, stay for another month and another month, for how long you think this is going to benefit you. All right. So thank you for today. Tomorrow, we are going to look at what we can do to manage change. And we're going to look at what we can do to manage change and crisis, and what the difference between managing change and crisis is. And that's crucial for you to know as a leader of your team. All right. Thank you again for joining me, and see you next time. Bye for now. I want to put you the trailer video, so stay tuned. Have a look at it. I love it. See you around.